All right. Welcome to the Smoking Men Tobacco Club podcast.
I should have gotten my cigar before I set up my mic.
Should've.
Now I have to move it.
So I am the owner and the host of this podcast. My name is Whitman. I am joined by one of my best friends in the world, the one and only Zoe.
That's me.
So
At least the only male Zoe that I've ever met.
only male Zoe. You know what? Yeah, only male Zoe that I've ever met. So, yeah. Today we are going to be reviewing the Rocky Patel Emerald. Neither of us have had this cigar, so it is a blind review. And that brings me into the first kind of topic of discussion that I want to bring up on this channel. I kind of have three pillars for what I want each episode to kind of be like. And the first one is these blind reviews. Now, when I thought about how I wanted to do this, I considered having it be purely educational and, doing the research beforehand. What kind of, wrapper is this, filler, binder, etc. What kind of notes we can be expecting. But I think that kind of takes some of the fun out of smoking a cigar, and I think it influences what you taste to a degree, and I can certainly appreciate the irony in doing a blind review and people listening and being like, oh, these are the notes he's tasting, maybe I'll taste that. So I do appreciate the irony.
That's called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, where you expect a certain result, and therefore you are more likely to observe that result in your own experiences. This, I don't know anything about it other than it's got this large green bit, and I've discovered upon the plastic unwrapping portion that it is in fact rectangular in rolling.
That's called a box press.
Okay,
yeah.
Box press.
I'm gonna follow suit with your how you have the mic there. I like that.
Yeah, I was playing around with it while you were doing your levels, and I was like, I think this is about the only level I can put it at where it will both hear me and not get in the way of the cigar enjoying experience.
Yeah.
However, all right, I'm just gonna reach over the mic and give mine a choppy chop. Do you? Okay, actually, this is, I think, something good to talk about on a cigar podcast. Do you prefer a smaller or wider snip?
I actually prefer a V-cut.
I do too.
Now, I can't explain why.
I can.
With a logical reason. For me, I just kind of like the mouthfeel of it. Yep. It's
mouthfeel, and it is less likely to disintegrate because it has less contact. The dip prevents those sections at the deepest part of the V from getting as moist or as wet as a flat cut will. So it's going to keep the center drier, which is actually going to allow that smoke to come through a little bit cleaner. And it's also going to just feel better on your tongue when you're not getting shavings. Now, you're not going to get shavings with a really well-rolled cigar, but how many of us only smoke well-rolled, perfect cigars?
That's true. Not all of us can smoke the high-end Davidoffs.
All right. Immediately, this is just giving me all the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, I quite like this. Right off the bat, all I really get is cedar and leather.
I can affirm that. I'm getting... It's definitely on the medium side of harshness. Like, I mean, I've had more harsh, I've had less harsh, or less more mild or whatever. But this is the plain cheeseburger of cigars. I am having like very few, but there is no competition. It is just, this is Jack and Coke. This is a very simple set of flavors that are working together without anything cluttering the road. This is driving on a freeway when you're the only one there. It is just simple and easy.
Yeah. And I would say I always have a different experience, even with the same cigar, depending on how quickly I smoke it. When I smoke, and this is, I'm a very fast smoker. I hate, I love smoking so much that I hate just letting it drag on. I like to experience it, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to get another one now.
You'll get that. You'll learn how to control that. I'm saying you, the audience, because I know you already know, but you'll learn how to control that if you engage in pipe smoking.
That's true.
Because
That's
with
true.
pipe smoking, there is
slower.
a right and wrong speed. With cigar, it's preference, but with a pipe, your whole goal is to keep it lit.
Yeah.
And if you ever feel bad about that, just remember that Tolkien famously made fun of C.S. Lewis for never being able to keep his pipe
C.S. Lewis
lit.
couldn't keep his pipe
He talked
lit.
too much.
Yeah.
But one of the most famous pipe smokers in the world couldn't keep his pipe lit. So you can feel okay. But the cigar, the faster you smoke it, the harsher your flavors are going to be. Because you are controlling, obviously this doesn't burn hot enough. The auto ignition point of tobacco is too high to burst into flames. But you are giving it airflow, and the more airflow it has, the hotter it burns and the faster it burns. Fun fact about English smoking culture, during the era of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and Winston Churchill, three of the most famous Englishmen of that era, all smokers. But the cigar was considered the upper class smoking method, whereas the pipe was the working class. And the reason for this is because you can, if you are proficient enough at keeping your pipe lit, put your pipe in your teeth and work with your hands. You can't do that with a cigar without biting the end off. And so Churchill's cigar habits were actually a indication of his political party.
Interesting.
It was a calculated part of his image. Or at least it wasn't an accident. I mean, he probably would have enjoyed cigars regardless of his political leanings, but I think that it's all part of the same thing.
I think this is a good time to interject real quick. So we've obviously touched on the first pillar. The first pillar is reviewing cigars, reviewing pipe tobacco, and we will get to specific types of pipe tobacco down the road, pure Turkish, pure English, a Cavendish, things like that, and tasting these notes and describing them and educating. That's kind of the first pillar. But before we continue on to the second pillar, because we've kind of already talked about it in general, we just haven't defined it.
I think a word that I really like, talking on the jack of all trades thing, I really do detest that term, because I think it is an attempt.
Well, people do it as an insult, or people say it as an insult.
It's an insult.
They tend to lose the back end of, jack of all trades, master of none, still better than the master of one.
Yes, that is the full phrase. There's a lot of aphorisms that we use that we say half the aphorism and we don't know the whole thing.
I was trying to remember that word.
Or we've completely reversed the meaning. For example, the phrase "blood is thicker than water." Do you know the original?
It's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
So that was adapted by the Christians of the 1300s. The phrase actually dates back to the Roman era, but it's the same message, which is the blood we shed on the battlefield is thicker than the water shared in the womb. And it might go back as far as the Greeks, but it was definitely used by the Romans. And it means the inverse, that basically brothers in arms or those you share a vision with are closer than family. And it's come to mean the opposite. And same thing with jack of all trades, but the term I prefer is the polymath, which is a term that means basically a multifaceted, well, expertise. The term polymath actually refers to expertise of intellect, but you can use it to also refer to skill as well. But the idea of being a Renaissance man, being someone who, which is, I think, a value that was lost among the boomers and among Gen X even a little bit, even though it was actually my dad, who is Gen X, who said, no, this is what we need to go back to. And I think that millennials to a little bit and Zoomers to a greater degree are returning to this idea of being a Renaissance man means being really multifaceted and competent in all areas. And I think that it's a worthy goal. I think that it is a fault of. I'm a huge supporter of capitalism and the American dream, but I do think it's a fault of the corporate system, which again I still advocate for. But the idea of you have one degree, you have one profession, you have one area of expertise. This is the thing you will be known for the rest of your life. And I don't think that idea is supported by the Bible. I don't think it's necessarily unbiblical, but I don't think that there is any biblical reason to value it. And
I'd agree. And I'd even say it's detrimental. I
think it's detrimental to the soul.
Oh, absolutely. I think even if you're a non-religious person, at least in this sense, if you're not a Christian, I should say, just because we're talking about the Bible, even if you're an atheist, I would still argue singularity is just, it's anti-human nature. One thing that I've been experiencing with my daughter now, who's a toddler, a little 2-year-old toddler, she loves to dance, she loves to sing, she loves to run around, she loves to explore. I think that's very, she loves to draw. I think it's very innate to human nature, and we tend to pigeonhole ourselves again into a single profession, and we wonder why the joy is being sucked out of everything. And then we say on top of that, okay, well then art, music, dancing, happiness, exploration, hiking, surfing, skateboarding, it's no longer just a hobby, but we've also turned it into a skill you have to master rather than an expression of just joy and just letting it come from the soul. We have professional ballerinas, we have professional basketball players, and so we've taken these things that are just good and innate and said, okay, no, there's a skill to it, and you have to be skilled. And so again, we've further restricted, human nature in a really detrimental way.
This is why Carl Jung said that the final goal, the final boss of psychology is to rediscover and reintegrate the child version of yourself that died in adolescence. So growing up is about letting the adult replace the child, and that is the healthy progression. And then once the adult has been birthed and the child has died, now you go and resurrect the child, and you do so with the wisdom and life experience that you've gained as the adult. You now have the ability to go and rediscover your inner child from a psychological standpoint. And then this is also, to go off of what you were saying, this is why Plato said that the greatest and most skilled, the only true expert of anything is the artist. And the reason he said that is because The farmer is an expert of farming, and he farms his wheat, and he knows more about wheat and gathering grain and milling it up into flour, whatever, than anyone else. And the cart driver is the best at cart driving, and he can drive a cart better than anyone else. He knows all the roads, and he knows how the cart works, and he knows all the intricacies of how the cart, when it looks this way, it means that this needs to happen to it. And the merchant is the best at selling things. And so then when an artist comes along and paints a scene that has a farmer growing and a merchant selling and a cartman delivering, he's like, that artist has to be an expert at all three.
I like that.
In order to properly depict it. And so then the question becomes, the question that Plato poses is, how do you treat life like art? Because to be an artist does not just mean a painter or a musician or someone who creates something that its only value is for entertainment or soul enrichment. To be an artist means to treat every aspect of life artfully.
Throughout this podcast so far, and this review so far, we've demonstrated, but we've not defined, is the second pillar of the Smoking Men podcast is encouraging masculinity. And let me preface this with, whoever is watching, whether you're male or female, I encourage you to watch, because edification is excellent in its own right. It's what's the word I'm looking for?
It's worthwhile.
It's worthwhile, but I think as we've seen a decline in men feeling like they can be men and men exemplifying masculinity. So going back, so the first kind of pillar of what we want this podcast to be is, reviewing cigars and tobacco and, having this kind of commonality of something that we enjoy, this hobby that we enjoy that unites us regardless of race, gender, and origin. And the second pillar is, becoming better men, exploring the breadth of good masculinity and encouraging other men and, to a degree, women in that.
I think I want to address your address to women, and say that another value that this holds, if you're a woman watching, is that one of the biggest pillars that is missing from modern masculinity is support from the females who want masculine men, and that men don't feel safe being men. Now, part of being men means to be courageous enough to be a man whether or not you feel safe.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes those first steps are harder, and then it's kind of like rolling a snowball down a hill. Like, once it's rolling, it can be self-sustaining, but it sometimes needs that push. And I think that, Proverbs talks about that, the wise woman builds up her house, but a foolish woman can be the one who destroys it. Doesn't say that of men. Men aren't given that power over their house. It's the foolish woman who brings ruin upon her own house. And she can do that regardless, because a good woman will inspire men to be great. And so to wives who are like, my husband's no great, it's like, well, what are you doing? I've found this to be so true in my life. And a man, the last person I dated before my wife, she was great and she loved me and she was really supportive. And she used to say, I would love you in a cardboard box or something along those lines, or I will live with you in a cardboard box or whatever it was. But basically that. And I on the one hand, I loved that. Like, it made me feel really safe and comfortable. But I was like, I have in other relationships also been challenged before because the people I was with saw greatness in me. And I was like, I love the support. And I think that the support is completely necessary at all times. But I also think that men need the drive of, you are greater than a cardboard box. You can achieve more than that. I will be with you there, but I also want to encourage you to and empower you and better you. And this is completely different from what I'd had before those relationships, which was a situation where it was, I won't love you unless you provide X, Y, and Z, right? And so those are the two extremes of the one of, I won't support you unless I have the greatest totality of what you can get for me. And I don't care. Like, you're enough, which is, again, good on its own, but like no desire to push for what I was capable of, right? In fact, if I wanted to, like, I really think I'm capable of achieving this goal. Oh, you don't need to do that. I'll love you no matter what. Which is,
I think that's detrimental to a degree.
I think so, because I think that if I was in a different place in my life and I'd gotten that, I probably would have fallen for it. But at the time, I was like, I've tasted someone who was in the middle of those two. Is like, dude, you could be king.
Yeah.
I'll love you until you get there, but this is where you can get. And that's what you should be. That's what a good wife does. That's what a good woman does, is I will love you until you get there, but this is where I see you getting. This is what I see you being able to achieve, and I will do whatever I can to make you believe that you can do that, and to make you feel constantly refilled and encouraged to achieve these unthinkable goals. And I think the reason so few men reach those goals is because they either have someone who treats I didn't get there this month, like a punishment, and they're like, well, I didn't marry someone who is gonna, have to borrow money for rent this month. Or someone on the other end of the spectrum is like, oh, I don't care, whatever, blah blah blah. Like, I don't think it's that important anyway. No, you want someone who's gonna say, you know what? I see where you're gonna be in 5 years. This month sucks, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
And that's such a blessing. And to men who are watching, look for her. And to women who are watching, look firstly to be her, and secondly to find a man who wouldn't be content with less. Because a man who's going to be content with the girl who says, I don't care if we could live in a cardboard box for all I care, I just want to be with you. A person who falls for that hasn't yet believed for himself what he can achieve.
Two things I would say. I feel like a lot of men are in that category currently.
I think so too.
The early geniuses who tend to burn out because they're not consistently challenged. I recognize that in my own life.
I remember that.
But I mean, that also kind of is tangential, or I should say not tangential, but congruent with or parallel with. Congruent is a much better term. Congruent with this corporate America of, we only do one thing instead of exploring all facets
and that's where the
of
burnout
our
happens.
talents, and where burnout happens. I'd say a lot of men, myself included, tend to doubt their abilities because they're trying to mold themselves to this singular concept and identity in society, instead of being able to explore all facets of their talents and
it's the
and to be rewarded for it.
And
so what do men need? How do they grow and evolve themselves on their own without the support of a good woman? And then is a kind of parallel question to that, getting into the Bible, where it talks about, husbands love your wives, women respect your husbands. Those are commandments that are to be given, or I should say behaviors to be followed based on the commandments always. trying to figure out how to phrase this question. You know, what I guess what do you have to say about that? And just as a little side note, you know, I do think it's interesting that, you know, the Bible gives those commandments as you always do this regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
I feel like women are like, well, I'll respect my wife, or women say, I'll respect my husband when he deserves it. And, you know, women, you know, at least modern feminists would be like, yeah, go girl, yes, queen. But, you know, as soon as you say, well, I'll love my wife when she fucking deserves it, well, then that's a problem. How do we start to change our mentality for men and women of men, love your wives regardless, and women respect your husbands regardless?
Right.
And then, yeah, like you were saying, you know, I'd love you in a cardboard box, but I see this. How do we explore that, you know?
Yeah. So I think the issue of men feeling constrained, I guess is a new word, by this idea of this is my career and this is my degree and this is what I am for the rest of my life. And really, that's just the adult evolution of that Disney Channel sitcom we were talking about earlier of I'm this guy. And, you know, this is my friend who's an engineer. This is my
I guess before
friend.
you get too deep in it, let me interject. Where do you think we get that from? Is it a part of corporate America? It's just a societal
it's
ego
evolved
thing
through corporate America, but it really goes back to a serfdom model where you had a king and you had serfs, and so it's a very old idea. I just don't think it's the best idea. I think that the idea of being an employee, which again is not necessarily an old idea, I believe thoroughly that the sections of the Bible, particularly the New Testament, that refer to the treatment of slaves, you could sub out the word slave for employee, and I think that those commands go
that's
for
really
Christian.
what slaves were.
Yeah, that's what, especially in Roman times.
They were taken care of.
Yeah, they were very well taken care of, but they had one thing. And so this is a very old idea, but it is part of why we don't feel free in doing these things. And so now we progress that idea of a man is trapped in this, and we're progressing it to the idea of men loving their wives, and you said women respecting their husbands. Certain translations say obey, and I think that is not a faulty translation. I think that is a perfectly valid translation. And you are right that I think it is a sin. It is a lie of the devil. The solution is for you to be the first one who doesn't let a domino fall. It is the job of the person with the highest amount of integrity, or the highest amount of self-control, or the highest amount of selflessness, the person who wants things to be better. The first person to notice the problem should be the first person to say, I will not contribute to my role in the circle. And even if I take a break for one turn, it usually is enough to make some sort of shakeup happen. And so the command in the Bible does not say, if your husband is perfect, you should obey him or respect him. It says, do it. Because through your obedience, they will be sanctified. And through your love, husbands, the wife will be sanctified. And your job is to do that job, even if your spouse, your partner, is not doing their job. And if they continue to not do their job, you become a sort of martyr from a spiritual standpoint by continuing to do your job, and you will have blessings and reward because of it. But you're not free from your obligation to do your part. It does not say that when the happiness stops, your obligation to do your part stops. Because happiness is not the end-all, be-all. The happiness is not... Jesus doesn't say, obey me while you're happy. We see this so many times through biblical stories. Joseph is my favorite example. A lot of people like to point Job because, I don't know.
Job was a melodrama.
Job is a melodrama. But Joseph goes through decades of bad, and he never stops doing what he's supposed to do, even though the promises that are given to those who do those things aren't fulfilled immediately. They are fulfilled 14 years later.
Gosh, and you're challenging me now, man.
And even so, because he obeyed without reward for 14 years, his reward at the end of that was so exponentially greater than it would have been if he had been getting little doses of reward. It's like that saying of, you give a kid, like, would you rather have one marshmallow today or 2 marshmallows tomorrow? It's like
I'll take the marshmallow today.
And it's literally that exact same thing, that like you could be getting like one reward. Would you rather have $10 today or $1 million 5 years from now? Yeah. Like that's essentially, and I think $1 million is selling it short to what Joseph got at the end. Yeah. Because it was so exponentially greater than what he would have gotten if it was just a microdose of comfort throughout his whole life, rather than a long time of struggling to do the right thing where there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And then a climactic explosion of blessing where he becomes literally the second most powerful person in the civilized world. You know, and you see the same thing with David, where he had been given this promise of incredible blessing at a very young age, and it kept being shafted. And he didn't get it. It's like, oh, you're going to, I mean, it even starts with Samuel saying, oh, you're going to be king someday. And then the current king says, oh, if you slay this giant, you'll get to marry my daughter. And it's like, oh, wait, no, I don't want you to marry my daughter yet. Go. I'm going to take that promise away. You got to do some other stuff for me. And then he goes and does the other stuff. And like, it's just over and over and over again of him getting promised these great things. And he could be like, God, I mean, he kind of did, because we see it in the Psalms, but he's like, God, you promised me all these things and I'm not getting them. But throughout the Psalms, he remembers, even if you haven't given me these things yet, I'm going to hold you to your promise. I know that you will be faithful. And eventually, God is faithful in his promise to David, and he becomes the greatest king in Israel's history. And I think that, between David and Joseph, you have these magnificent examples of the fact that being obedient now does not mean you get reward now. And I'd say even outside of the Bible, we see through human history that those who are obedient, those who are honorable and have integrity throughout their whole lives, and have long stretches of their life where it's hard and they don't see any reward, or why is this even worth it for their obedience? The worth comes later, and it is repaid tenfold what it would have been if it was just a drip feed of comfort. Maybe you've got a tenfold blessing coming at an unforeseen point in the future. It could be years, but something big's coming as long as you remain obedient.
So how would you surmise that?
So for women, I think it's more simple. The answer to women is respect him as if he is king before he's king. And you have to make him the king of your life. And
I think that's good right there.
Yeah.
Then for men.
And for men
who don't have that support.
For men, it's so much more complicated. You've got to find out how to be worthy to be a king. And I mean, not every king's domain is as great. You might not be ruling over tens or hundreds of or thousands of people. But even if you're just ruling over a family of 3, you've got to be worthy to be that king. And to be worthy of that, I think the biggest word, the one word, if I were to use, I would like to use two words, but the biggest word is selflessness. You have to be selfless in all circumstance. Your job is to die to yourself. The second word is power. And that's the fun word, right? That's the word we want. But you have to master selflessness before you can master power. I don't mean power over your wife. I mean power around your wife. So there's this psychological phenomenon that happens with women, that women are biologically engineered to make sure that their children are safe from predators, right? And so for the vast majority of human history, this means that, lions or snakes or whatever that are going to come in the house and devour their family. So a man needs to be able to provide that safe place. And part of that is a selfless attitude of the way he treats her, and an aggressive attitude of those who exist outside of the family unit. And that doesn't mean hostile. I don't mean to be a jackass to everyone you meet. Yeah. But she needs to know that if something bad is coming,
shove, you can...
that you're the one, you're not going to hide behind her.
Yeah.
While something bad approaches the house, that she can hide behind you.
Yeah. Well, and then that ties into the, what we touched on as far as the second pillar of encouraging masculinity goes, being the protector.
Protector and provider, those are the two big P's we talked about. And
the PP, if you will.
You did. So I will say that if you're lacking in both areas, fixing protector first will go a longer way. I think a woman is far more likely to tolerate a deadbeat man who is between jobs, who will take a shotgun to anyone who shows up at the door, than she will a Wall Street man who comes home with a tie but hides behind his wife when a threat's at the door. And now, you ideally should get to both. But if you're in a position where you're at neither and you need to fix one, and you only have the mental capacity of fixing one at a time, become the protector first. Protector comes before provider, I think. Because I've seen through my own experience, from what I've understood in my study of psychology and my study of the Bible, a woman will feel safer with a protector, and that will make her much more able to encourage you as you're trying to find that job. Forgive me if this is exposing a little bit too much of your personal life into the stream, but I think you've seen that because you're a very good protector, Whitman. You are a very strong person. You're very kind. You're a very kind person, but I would not want to cross you. Your wife was very supportive in times when you were having a lot of difficulty because of things outside of your control, the economy, and really some difficult situations of living in California in the post-COVID era. You were having difficulty matching her paycheck. I think because you hit the protector side so strongly, she never gave up on you, dude.
Yeah.
And, throughout everything, she has always encouraged you to follow your, I don't want to say follow your dreams. I don't want to sound Disney Channel on you, but like to pursue what was meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And to try to find a way to make money on something that would enrich your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that because you had the protector part nailed down, she felt safe encouraging you to reach your heights. But you try doing that with a woman who knows that when someone dangerous comes at the door, you're going to cower in the cupboards. It's not going to happen. So if you can only fix one, be protector first. And I think that that's something that every man can do, and you can't blame the economy for it. You can just find the way to, even if you can't manifest the physical strength overnight. One, go to the gym, try to find a way to get the physical strength. But in the meantime, you can buy a gun. If you're not in an area where you can buy a gun, dude, get a compound bow.
Yeah.
Those things are, one, legal everywhere. You don't need to register those things. And two, they're more lethal than a firearm. They're not as fast to reload. I think that's the detriment to a compound bow. But I feel safer with my compound bow drawn than I do. In fact, I keep that load in the house because my children aren't strong enough to fire it by accident.
Yeah.
I don't, they can't access my firearm. That thing's got, but that's the thing is like you pull out the compound bow and you tell your wife to go unlock the gun safe while you're waiting, but you got one good shot.
Yeah.
And, get something you can defend your family with and show your wife that you are capable of it. And I don't care if you live somewhere where there is zero crime and no wild animals, it will make her feel. It's a subconscious thing, man. Yep. It's part of the way we're wired, whether by design or evolution, whatever you want to believe it is. Women need to know this so that they know that they're not the ones who have to stand between their family and destruction.
Mm-hmm. So summarize, I guess, in a couple words or less, like we've been trying to. Men who are single, build up that protector aspect. Get your ass in the gym. Learn to be strong. Learn to use your strength to protect those who are weak. Women who are single, learn what it means to be a truthful, respectful encourager. And then for both parties, when you're married, the same thing applies, but I would add develop patience and continue to fulfill your obligation regardless of the circumstances.
I agree. And even if you don't want to go to the gym, pick up a martial arts class or something.
Yeah.
In fact,
do something.
So, I'll say from my own personal experience, martial arts is more valuable than the gym.
Oh, absolutely.
You're building up actual defensive techniques rather than show muscles. So this brings me back to the thing of getting right up to the point of mastering something and then
hitting the plateau.
Yeah, hitting the plateau and feeling like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
And I think I share that a lot with you. I got to red belt, which is in my dojo, I was one test away from black belt.
Yeah.
I was one test away. And I was just like, I got this. And I dropped out. I got to one rank below Eagle Scout. And I was like, it's all right. And I dropped it. I think I've even done more. I've dabbled in more career paths than you have. So, I was a librarian for a time. I did construction. I mentioned that. I did food service. I was a barista for a while. And that was a level of skill and intellect that was above food service for sure. I don't think a lot of people appreciate what it means to be a barista in a local coffee shop, not like a Starbucks. I've worked at Starbucks also, but I worked in 3 coffee shops. And the amount that's expected of you is intense. And let's see, I managed homeowners associations. I was a salesman for a while. I worked at Verizon. I did laser tag. I was a YouTuber for a few years. I was a high school teacher twice, middle school teacher once, and now I do the stock market. So, master of some? I don't know. I'd say that I am better than the average person at almost all of those things. And all the things I studied in the meantime. At some point in that time, I studied mathematics, I studied philosophy, I studied psychology, I studied magic tricks, all these stupid stuff that just I get an itch once a year where I'm just I've got to get really good at computer programming last year. I'm like, I don't know why I needed to know that, but I was able to code a game to the point where it was almost ready for alpha, and I was like, I'm good. I know we're going back several subjects. I don't know. I don't want to make this point now. I feel bad for bringing it back. One, I think that there's something so freeing in letting yourself pursue something to the point of expertise, even if it's not going to make you money. You know, just like, hey, I'm really interested in ancient Mesopotamian history right now. I really want to know why they thought that the Anunnaki were going to come back. Like, what is going on with that? Or, you know,
So knowledge for knowledge's sake, betterment for betterment's sake.
Betterment for betterment's sake. And you never know when these things are going to become useful in time, because God may be preparing you with information that you may need to have already had when something big comes in your future. Here's how I'm going to tie this in to men specifically, because I think men are the ones who, one, need to be the ones who are prepared, and two, because men are the ones with the psychological proclivity to hyperfocus. We've learned this to be more ubiquitous than ever through the regrettable infestation of short form content like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. But we've learned that the male proclivity to hyperfocus is not as unique as we thought it was when we were kids. As kids, we thought we were weird. And then we learn, oh my gosh, this is something that kind of like every man goes through. And at some point in their life, a woman shames them out of it. So as we've discovered that this is something that occurs with all men, I believe that that hyperfocus leads us to greatness at some point. And I think that women should, one, allow and encourage this, because I think at some point it will eventually lead to greatness. But two, I think it's also a way of finding meaning and finding purpose in a life that is dominated by monotony. And so if you're in a dead-end job and you're in a situation where you are, by the demands of your bill collectors, compelled or forced to maintain a singular focus in your vocation, in your job, in however you're getting money to provide for your family. If you are in that situation, to have this hyper-focus pursuit of knowledge, don't lose that. Don't suppress that. Find a way to pursue something that is new. Find a way to pursue ways to better yourself. Do not concern yourself with, will this further my career? Will this contribute to my retirement? It doesn't matter. It will contribute to the betterment of your soul. The ability to stay engaged in your life keeps you going.
Yeah, absolutely.
It keeps you motivated and on track. Even if you're like, man, I just got to fill out 7 more hours of spreadsheets so I can go home and build my Lego Halo ring or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, whatever it is, man, do not concern yourself with, I don't know, I'm 37 years old and I'm still playing with Legos. Who cares, man?
Yeah.
Like, if you're paying your bills and you're the one who's going to stand between your family and threats that are knocking on the door, blessed be you who find the joy to keep you doing that.
Yeah, I like that. So, fulfill your biblical obligation to be a protector and find your passion.
I agree. And if you could find a way to make your passion make you money, do it. But if you can't, then simply find ways to
find a sugar mama.
Find ways to make time for your passions.
Okay.
Ultimately, this is a philosophical discussion disguised as a cigar review.
As a cigar, yeah, absolutely.
So I'll say that now that I am in the middle and approaching the middle portion was so harsh. I don't know if you noticed it because you were like chugging on yours.
I wasn't even chugging. I just
dude, you were going like a frat party with a piercing in the beer bottle or beer
you
can.
were just
like
You're the one carrying the conversation. I was just over here smoking.
No, you're fine. You're right. You're right.
I was smoking at the right pace. You're just the one.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm like binge smoking over here. Just a little bit here, nothing. A little bit. But middle, really harsh. I didn't like the middle. But as I'm approaching the the final third, it's mellowing out again a bit, and it's a completely different flavor profile from the beginning. We're getting much deeper flavors. I'm getting a lot more of the wood and a lot less leather, much less leather. I've got some walnut here. It's definitely like the middle. The middle kind of tasted like ash. The middle was not pleasant for me right now. It's definitely a more bitter flavor than the beginning, but I am also having more sweetness. So it's just more flavor. The beginning was really delicate, and now I've got much stronger flavors. Like the beginning felt like brewed coffee, and this is more like espresso. Where it's the same flavors, but definitely stronger.
Yeah.
I'd say more because at the beginning I was really having, it kind of felt like two flavors dancing together, and now it feels more like four, where I have the same cedar from the beginning, and I've got a little bit of, no, I can taste the leather still, but that's such a bad term, but that is what it tastes like.
Tastes like cowhide.
What's the sweet that I'm tasting? I mean, it does taste like walnuts. That's one of them. But the sweet is more like almost grapefruit.
Really?
Here,
okay, so fruitiness.
See if you can get that. Or do you need me to wipe that off?
No, you're good.
You got to try.
Keep it.
No, but I've smoked mine at a different rate than yours. So see where mine's at.
All right. No, I'm not getting the grapefruit. It is a lot more harsh. But again, you've smoked your cigar
at a completely
these
different rate.
Bursts. So
yeah, bursts.
That harshness that I'm kind of getting is just from the ash and the nicotine buildup.
The unsophisticated method.
Exactly. At this point, we've discussed ad nauseum. We've discussed masculinity and growing masculinity. Now that we're kind of wrapping up, that brings us into defining the third pillar of this podcast. So our first pillar is, what is bringing us all together? It's the leaf, it's cigars, it's pipes. And again, the second pillar being developing healthy masculinity. And one thing that we didn't touch on as far as great men goes, but is a key component of the third pillar, is we want this podcast to be an encouragement and a digital form of relationship and entertainment. I think a key part of being a man is finding other men who are going to encourage you, going to lift you up, but also bust your balls and, for lack of a better term, bullshit a little. If you're out there and you're working your ass off and all you have time for at the end of the day is, you just go out on your porch, light up a cigar, or smoke your pipe, then hopefully at least you can turn on this podcast, get a little chuckle. Obviously we want to encourage provocative thought and betterment of the mind and the spirit, as is a key component of healthy masculinity.
I agree. I think that this is a great endeavor, and I think that anyone who watches this, hopefully they're pursuing it because they want betterment, and if not, they've stayed with us because they are inspired by betterment. I believe thoroughly in being the best version of yourself that you can be, rather than I hate the idea of just this is who I am, accept it. I think there's value in saying, like, I accept you where you are, but I believe in where you can be. And I think that we are all capable of more.
Yeah.
And that key to finding a good partner is all about finding that person who says, I see where you can be, and I will accept nothing less, but I will stand by you until you get there.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want the person who says, I'll take you in a cardboard box. You want the person who sees your potential and sees how great you could become and is willing to stand by you through the hard times and to give you the encouragement and love and strengthening that you need to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think that finding other men who can be that with you has become so hard because too many men they've found a comfort in feminism that tells them.
I would disagree. It's not complacency. It's apathy. I think a lot of people are burned out, and again, whether it's kind of touching back on all these topics, corporate America and a singular, kind of defining profession or a singular way of defining who you are. I think men have become apathetic.
I think you're right. I do think, though, there are basically kind of two types of men that they'll either be the ones who've become apathetic because they don't believe in a hope, but I think that there are so many who have found comfort in feminism because nothing is expected of them, and there's a juvenile enjoyment of that I think it leads to a lack of fulfillment. I'm not saying a lack of happiness in the moment. I'm not saying you're not happy right now. I'm saying that you feel like something's missing. I mean, do you really feel like a king? Do you really feel like you rule whatever portion of the world has been allotted to you? That's a big feeling.
Yeah.
And they've come to say that they know that the work it takes to get there is hard. And someone comes along and says, I'll take a portion of that work, but you get none of the glory. But they don't say that last part out loud. They'll say, I'll take a portion of the work. And they'll be like, I can enjoy my Halo 3 remaster that may be coming out someday. I don't know. But, man, I can play my GTA 6, and it's fine. I'll just find some joy in that. Like, yeah, man, I'll get my 6 beers a day. And, like, it's really comfortable.
But the devil wants you comfortable.
The devil wants you comfortable. And like I was saying, and I mean, sometimes God has lives of comfort for people who aren't destined for greatness. Fact of the matter is that you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
You aren't content to say, this is all it ever needs to be. I want a kingdom to rule.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're saying I want a kingdom to rule, then the question is, how do I make that part of my future? Not why don't I have that now? That's the wrong question. The right question is, how do I make that part of my future? If I can offer a modicum of advice on the idea of surrounding yourself with good men, that there's value in surrounding yourself in men who aren't in the same place in life that you are, because one of two things is going to happen. Either one, if you have people who are in life at a place that you have not yet achieved, then there's a likelihood that you will feel inspired to reach the levels that they have reached. Or if you're another type of person, maybe a more prideful type of person like me, if you're at a place of life that is higher than people around you, then maybe you'll feel inspired to continue setting the trend and pushing for more so that people are following in your footsteps. I don't know if that's a good quality of mine.
For the fellows out there who are like me, who are, in last place, but bitter. What do we do?
I think that was something for me as a prideful person that took a lot of growth in humility to be able to accept people who were in higher positions than me in areas that I respect. There were points in my life where I came into contact with people who were better at the things that I valued in myself than I was. And I think that my initial instinct is to be resentful towards them and dislike the fact that they existed simply because they were better at the things that I valued than I was. And I was like, that's my thing. Like, why are you better than me? And I think the sinful from a biblical standpoint and unhealthy from a psychological standpoint, because psychology and the Bible are agreed on this. The sinful and unhealthy standpoint is to try to find a way of telling yourself, oh, well, my life must suck in some other area, or maybe things aren't that great for them, or they got this, but they don't have this other thing that I've got. It's like, well, but then I think that there was a point in my life where I remember around when this happened. It was around when I was 27, and I encountered someone who, one of the things that you guys might not know about me, Whitman does know about me, is I'm very well versed in the Bible, the scriptures, and things like that. And you can bring something up, and I can usually tell you roundabouts where it's said or what the proofs or disproofs of that statement was. I encountered someone who was not just a little bit better than me. I could quote them any part of the biblical scriptures, anything, the most obscure thing I could think of. I could before going to hang out with them, I could look something up that was like the most obscure reference from the minor prophets. Like, this is Hosea chapter 1 verse 3. I'm going to get that. And I would say it to him, and he would tell me exactly where it was. Exactly. I'm like, this dude has been a Christian for 2 years. I grew up in this stuff. What madness is this? And I was just like, you know what? I can't compete with him. And I want to be better because I'm inspired by him, but I need to stop trying to compete with him. I'm going to gain far more in life, social points, spiritual betterment, contentment in my life by just bragging on him everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is anytime we would go to a room together, and instead of being like, I know this Bible verse, and I know this Bible verse, like, instead of that, I'd just be like, oh my gosh, do you guys know that Jake is the most biblically versed person I have ever met? Like, let me just show you. Jake, where does it say this? And he'd be like, oh, it's here. I'm like, do you see this? This guy is incredible. He is so... I want to be more like this guy. And by doing that, not only did I feel better about myself, and not only did I lose the part of me that was envious and contemptuous, but as a side point, I gained more respect from the people around me by affirming him.
Absolutely.
Than I would have by trying to compete with him. By being his
advocate.
I was going to say cheerleader. Yours is way more masculine. By being his advocate.
There you go.
By singing his praises, I gained a public identity as someone who encourages others, and someone who is able to recognize value when he sees it. And I think that right there, that's the key. Instead of seeing your value in the things that you do, try to find value in your ability to recognize value. If you can be the person who sees another person and goes, oh man, this person's really good at this. And you're now all of a sudden you've gained respect and value because you're able to see value in others. And that's a skill in and of itself. That's a thing in and of itself that people recognize. And that's the type of person that other people want to be friends with. And it's the type of person that women want to be in a relationship with because, man, this is someone who sees quality and knows it when he sees it. And finding value in recognizing the value in others gets you so much further in life. And it helps you feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
It's so powerful to see the value in others and affirm that. And you might not be as good as what they are and what they do, but you can be the best at seeing the value in others. And that's a very easy thing to do because so few people, there's so few competitors.
Yeah.
There's so few people trying as hard as they can to find the best thing about the people around them and tell other people about it. It is something that there is so little competition and it is so easily respectable that you can do that one thing. You can be the best in your social group at seeing the value or the skills in other people and being the one to go into a room, putting your hand on their shoulder, and you do this. You put your hand on your shoulder and you put your arm out like this, and you go, did you guys know that this guy right here, he does this one thing, and it's really cool. And they'll see the thing that he did that's really cool. But what they're going to remember is that you were the one who brought them that information. It is an incredible feeling. And it is one of the best ways that someone who is self-conscious and constantly feeling like they're not good enough and they aren't living up to what other people around them are doing, if you can just talk to someone and just try to think, you know, what's the one thing that they are so exceptional at that I couldn't compete? Or that if I did compete, I would be uncertain of the outcome. Because that's the other thing, is that if you are actually close and skilled to them and you're bragging on them, they'll remember that for a little bit. But every time that you're close to that, they'll be like, he's also pretty good at that thing. It is the most pure feeling of selfless liberation, where all of a sudden you're not threatened by them. You're on their team. And when they succeed, it reflects well on you because you're the one who told everyone in the first place, pay attention to this when they do this thing. Pay attention to that. And they'll be like, oh man, Whitman was right. They won't think, oh man, they're really good. They'll think, Whitman was right. He really is really good at that thing. It's a cool feeling to be someone else's advocate.
Hell yeah. We'll see you guys next time.